right to do what?
Just delivery. I mean, the officer or whoever, the government in charge.
Let me ask you this question.
Well, that's a state law.
I understand, but let me ask you this question. Just let me ask you. I want you to consider it. I think everybody, most of you have been in City Hall. No. I'm giving a simple.
I know you.
I'm giving. No, what I'm doing is I'm sharing a similar situation. It's not appropriate. It's that kind of behavior would not be appropriate. And that's all we're saying. It wasn't a matter of legal or illegal. It was a question of whether it was being handled properly. It needed to stop.
Mr. Snow cleaning, what was Mr. Wells' beef with him cleaning the cemetery?
Well, there was no.
that illegal for him to be doing that?
Well, part of the cemetery that was being worked on, I don't think is even owned by the city.
Mayor, you said you had spoken with Mr. Snow,
Yes, sir.
and y'all agree. Are you saying Mr. Snow now can return to work, or does he need to check in? And the second question is, if the part of the cemetery he was working on may not even be owned by the city, did you or Mr. Wells have the authority to stop him from working on property not owned by the city?
It's still under the city, it's still within the cemetery department. And I think the answer to that is yes, because those folks expect us to maintain the properties just like other grave owners. Every plot is owned by an individual.
In the first place.
Every plot in the cemetery is owned by the individual family that bought the plot. And so that was not the issue.
Okay, the first
but
question.
But in terms of Mr. Snow, yes, if Mr. Snow, any volunteer, anybody, not just Mr. Snow, just have a conversation with the department here, whether it's public works, cemetery, or anybody, have a conversation with them to make sure that where we're going in this is being coordinated properly.
So you've spoken with Mr. Wells, and you believe that if Mr. Snow approaches Mr. Wells about, I'm ready to go back to work, there's not going to be a problem?
No, it's not going to be a problem. No.
Great.
When I'm out there, and I go there a lot because my family's buried at the new library. The only person I see working is different citizens. Like my brother worked out there for a whole summer cleaning up the cemetery. You know, we don't see any of the heads doing anything in the city of Selma. Our council people aren't cleaning up their areas. It looks like a garbage dump all over Selma. Go down Broad Street, burn out houses, trash everywhere. You know, we should be more proud of our city than what's going on behind the curtains that we're not seeing.
I can feel and appreciate what you just said.
Because it's part of the YMCA where visitors come through our beautiful, sweet town that we love, and we appreciate you and everyone else. But so much disrespect for Mr. Snow has rubbed the citizens a little wrong. And he is the one, yes sir, much better than 7 months ago. But how much of the credit goes to citizens like Mr. Snow and other people that get out and volunteer? And we're to go to the cemetery office every time we get out there and work.
Well, again,
I appreciate them.
I'm not here to debate you. I really appreciate what you said.
Mr. Mayor, one question.
Hold on, let me finish.
Okay, excuse me, I'm sorry.
I listened to what you said. And what I heard, it may not be what you intended for me to hear. But what I heard was that Mr. Snow is the reason the city is cleaner than it was 7 months ago.
Much cleaner.
No. Hear me out. I have said to Mr. Snow that I appreciate what he's done. We know what he's done, both for paid contracts and for volunteerism.
Mr. Hicks, in a most positive way, a few months ago, And I did spread the word and accolades for what he did to help with hurricane debris. So my statement, we are here to discuss the work that Mr. Snow has done, and I still would like to give him accolades, but if we would like the Public Works, I have nothing negative to say. They are understaffed and they've done the best they could, and for the most part, I believe they appreciate the volunteer help working alongside them. Now, I don't know if there's a conflict between our Public Works and volunteer workers like we had at the cemetery yesterday, but yes, Mr. Mayor, that needs to be resolved and we need to work together.
As far as I
Getting communication from city officials on certain times of the month. Saying the last 6 months or 7 months that have passed. But is there a concern that some of the volunteer efforts will be hampered by the inability to get an approval from the top channel in the city to actually get it right to work?
In graves, and I submit to you that's not even any comparison. I don't want you to have these people so afraid that they can't go out and clean their family graves without checking in at the office. That is a ridiculous thought, and I hope that's not what you're saying. And the second thing would be Mr. Coons struggled along with that cemetery, got in terrible shape because he had 2 workers.
I understand.
All of a sudden, you just said he has 9 workers soon after he is gone. Where did this money come from? And the comical note, and I'll be finished. Do you realize you carried yourself and 2 armed police officers to the cemetery to a weed eater fight? And so
Well,
forth.
now, let's not get into a word
Right.
smithing issue.
But that would require check-in, right?
Well, I think it is respectful to let folk know. I mean, tell me what is the problem with saying Mr. Wells or Ms. Menifee, I'm going to be out here today. I want to let you know where I'm going to be. Just, maybe you can check on me.
But as they mentioned over here, if Mr. Wells is out of pocket, and I got a large family, and I got a lot of plots, can I proceed?
That's a good question.
Well,
Because I have a lot of clients out there.
I would encourage you to use your own professional judgment. Use your own professional judgment.
I have a question.
Yes.
If I send somebody out to do my plots, and I've been there myself, and I agree, you don't ever see anybody out there, unless it's Mr. Snow. But my question is, where are these 7 people that y'all claim you got?
Yeah.
Plus 9 people, I'm sorry. Plus, every time I've ever been out there, if I saw anybody, they were sitting on the back of their pickup truck under a shade tree. So can you explain to us why they're not working instead of sitting under the shade tree? And do I have to knock on the office door before I go to my 12 plots I have out there?
At the end of
Well, you still
The
didn't answer
check-in.
my question.
I'm giving a summary on this issue. I don't know what else, how else to say it.
The check-in plan seems to have been not very well thought out because of the difficulty of answering this scenario.
Well,
I think that it would be a great idea for you to consider, cemetery director consider, he's not in that office all the time, sometimes he's at his other job or wherever, out of pocket at lunch, and folks have a break to go out and clean up, that they have the right to go and clean up respectfully without having to check in. That plan, I just tell you, I don't believe will ever work without some controversy. Especially if Mr. Wells says, whoa, you out there working, you didn't check in. That'll never work. So let's consider a plan, and you can do it in your own privacy, and y'all discuss it, to where people are not afraid to go in the gates of that cemetery when they have time, maybe after he's not there, early morning when he's not there and clean up. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you for the suggestion. Yes, sir.
Here, Mr. Love, you mentioned earlier about
Me out of business.
Well, we actually hired a lot more folk than those 9. In fact, every department is being restaffed. Recreation, personnel, code enforcement. We've hired the people back into code enforcement. This misconception that the city broke is not true.
But where'd the money come from?
Well, it comes from the general fund of the city. It is
So it
budgeted.
wasn't-
It is
My
budgeted.
understanding from listening to council and so forth, talking to department heads, the money was not there.
If that's what you heard, that is not the case. But
Okay, thank
yes,
you.
sir.
It's
You're
a
welcome.
good thing that we're bringing our,
We'll bring them
people back to work.
to get the
and
work done.
Hopefully, we can all go back to
I'm in
volunteering.
agreement with that.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That is correct. And that is the spirit that I'm hoping you will embrace. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor President, I think the city council gave you X amount of money to bring those workers back. How much money did they approve for you to get to bring these workers back?
The council voted on the budget. It was a $20 million budget for this past year that they approved. And so we are hiring the people back. We're hiring the people back.
Well, I mean, we had some people laid off, 68 people were laid off under Gary O'Malley. Some of those people are trying to get back with the city. They're being ignored. They're not being given their jobs back. And that's a serious problem because I noticed one thing. I used to work for the state. They will not tell you, you need to put signs up in that office, in human resources, and you need to let everybody know that it's a job open. That has not been done. It's like, y'all trying to hide something. But, I mean, it's supposed to be there. I was in the state 25 years.
If you go by the personnel office, go through City Hall, you'll see a screen on the wall as you walk into a personnel office that has the jobs electronically posted. I want to point something out. We're about to end now. But I want to point something out to you. And I really appreciate this conversation. I want to point this out. Not a single question about the murder and the killing of our children. That's my final comment on this.
But now you have a public safety meeting this afternoon.
Not a single question about the public safety issue. And I said in my, and I've intentionally dealt with this as the last section of this message for the purpose of hoping that it would be the first thing you would remember.
Do you really think that these citizens of Selma are not disturbed about the killing of that child? It was brought up in the video between Mr. Snow, of course. I mean, all in a cemetery where that child could be laid. Absolutely everybody here.
Let me say this.
Some of us are so concerned
Let
we
me
want
say
to
this.
move.
Mayor President,
Sad.
I got a video on there, you couldn't see it. If you look back on, anybody can look back on it, that's the first question I said. I said, you can call a meet on this, but you can't call one of the murders.
My concern is this. There are people who know before any gun is fired that there are people angry with each other and there's a potential for violence. My ask is that we speak up as loud for public safety as we speak up on these other issues. I think that's a fair request. We need to start talking about those kinds of issues and sharing that kind of information with SPD so that we can get ahead of this situation. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to condemn anybody, but I am saying that is, I think, the priority that we should have as we move forward. And I hope that be the case.
Why aren't we doing something about these people that are just shooting guns all the time? There's housing areas that they can't sleep at night because guns are being shot. They call the law doesn't come.
Well,
4th of July is coming up, and I don't want to have to hear people shooting machine guns and every kind of weapon in my neighborhood, and I have to put up with it.
we just had a statement conference with Captain King was here, and we addressed this whole issue of fireworks and shooting guns in the city. We just did that this week. We've addressed it. And we have extra law enforcement that we're bringing in to address these issues over the weekend. We are definitely increasing the amount of security over the weekend because it is a holiday weekend. And so just know, and the other thing I want to mention to you is this. In many instances, when the police officers are called, when there's shots fired, I listen. Sometimes I'll turn the scan on because I'm listening. And there's a phrase they use when they get in the area and no one will talk to them. It was negative contact. And so what's happening is people who know what's happening are not telling. We gotta talk about this. This is a serious issue. This weekend, there are going to be fireworks and gunfire. It's been that way for the past 20 years. It has. It's been this way for the past 40 years. People have been shooting guns and popping fireworks in the city. And it's been illegal since then. So we really need to, this whole issue of gunfire needs to be addressed, and I'm hoping again that we will spend more time and energy in addressing this issue.
Is there a public-
Finally, keep in mind that what you really, when police officers are doing their work, most times, if they are investigating or looking into a matter, you probably won't see them. That's the way it works. And just because you don't see them, that doesn't mean they're not there or they're not doing it. And again, it's a part of the process.
Is there a public safety meeting today? Is there a public safety meeting committee
There's a
today?
public safety committee called today at 5 o'clock. I got notice of it yesterday evening, late. I'm not sure why I got the notice that late in the agenda, but I'm going to definitely try to make it. I do have a couple of conflicts. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, with public safety, and you inferred that perhaps the people in this room are not concerned about the child being shot in public safety. Most of us saw the press release, and it said to address the cemetery issue, so that's why we're here.
I understand.
With most of us also know that at 5 o'clock, council will meet for public safety, and those of us who have time can come back to that. Some of us appreciate structure. I do. So let's be clear. If I need to contact the cemetery director, is he going to be in his office? If not, I want to talk to the head of every department, starting at the top. So is he going to be there? And also something else. I'm just one of those people.
Let me answer that one first. You can hold your thought.
Sure.
Hold your thought. I think I'm going to address this. I'm going to address it. It's more of it's as much a personal matter as it is a professional. But I want to address it because of the stain that it's putting on Mr. Wells and his family. People drive by the funeral home where he worked. And they look through the door and they see somebody that looks just like him. But he has a brother who looks just like him working down there. We gotta do better. Folks, we really just gotta do better. It's really tragic. That man is in his office every day. He's working, but there are 4 cemeteries that he's maintaining. So he may be at Lincoln. He may be at Old Live Oak, New Live Oak. He may be at Harris.
So you're gonna,
Put
can you
cell-
post his cell phone?
On the door.
Or put it public on the city webpage, so that if he's at one of these other cemeteries, because we want all of them to look good, then we can feel free to contact him. If I wanna pick up trash, do I need to contact the head of Public Works? And I pick up trash at 6 in the morning. Is that guy gonna answer the phone for me? I also
Come
pick
on,
up.
nobody's going to stop you from picking up trash on the side of the road. Me either. That's not what we're saying here. Come on, guys. Steve, Mr. Henry, has the website been updated yet with the cell phones of department heads and council members?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
We have department phone numbers on there.
Department head phone numbers are there.
The department itself phone numbers is on there. Yes, sir.
All city issued phone numbers, go ahead and put their cell phones on there. City issued phone.
Mayor, with the budget going from 17.8 to 20 plus, you went on a position of not raising the taxes, right? Is there going to be taxes raised because of this increase?
Well, there's going to be some conversations about all of that, but keep in mind, that substantial budget increase took place as a consequence of Hurricane Zeta and the other issues that we had, that we were spending a lot of money on, COVID money. Much of the monies that was spent in that $20 million budget, we expect to get reimbursed. Okay?
Let me say, Mr. Mayor, before you leave, since I have been the most vocal here and I'm the most vocal Facebooker out there, that I appreciate you and your efforts.
Thank you.
I was aggressively pursued to go after your job before the election, and like I told them, you couldn't melt it and pour it on